know smart people? How many of you know smart people?
Charles Davis.
And how many of you know not so smart people? We have more not so smart than smart people. And I tend to agree with you. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests, I'm going to tell you about a summer vacation of mine in which I was not so smart. I'm going to tell you about the vacation that I had with my two kids. My son, 5 years ago when my kids were 16, my son called me at work and said, "Dad, guess what? We're going to come and see you for our summer vacation." I said, "All right, so when are you going to arrive?" "We're going to be there tomorrow." I said, "Okay, so did you make the arrangements already?" And my son said, "No, Dad, our tickets are $650. And we just wanted you to know ahead of time that how much the tickets will cost to fly us there." And I said, "Well, it's going to take me some time to get it." And they said, "Well, Dad, you have until this evening to get it." That's more than enough time. So I went on and I purchased their plane tickets. And so I had to make, I have a 2-bedroom apartment, so I had to make sleeping arrangements for myself. So I go to the base, MacDill Air Force Base, and I rent a sleeping bag and pillows and accommodations for myself because I'm going to be sleeping on the living room floor, and my son's going to have the spare bedroom, and my daughter's going to have my bedroom. So when they arrived, I'm glad to see them, but they wasn't so happy to see me when they initially came. And I asked my daughter, "Well, what's wrong? I thought you'd be excited to see me." And my daughter says, "Well, Dad, you didn't tell us over the phone what we're going to do." And I said, well, what are we going to do?" He said, "You're going to take us to Disneyland." And I was like, okay, I guess we're all going to Disneyland. So when I went back to work, the next day I had to go to work, I let my co-workers know that my kids were in town and that the weekend I'll be going to Disneyland and I couldn't work the weekend. And my boss says, "Well, why don't you have your kids to come, go back home and pick your kids and have them to come here and see what you do for the day." So I said, "Okay, that'd be fine." And so I went back home, got my kids, brought them back to work, and my boss says, "All right, you're going to be answering the phone, and you're going to be welcoming the veterans here as your father works." So my daughter, she was picking up the phone, and she said, as she picks up the phone, she said, "Oh, my dad, you want to speak to him. Dad, you have a phone call." I said, "Who did they want to speak to?" They said somebody else's name that I can't remember, but they really want to talk to you. And I said, "No, Moody, if they want to talk to another person in the office, you need to let them speak to them." And she said, "Dad, but you're the smartest one here in the office. They want to talk to you." And I said, "Okay." So I get on the phone and I say who I am and my position, and the person on the other end says, "Charles, Mr. White, I want to speak to your boss, Jimmy Thomas." And I said, "Yes, sir." And they said, and my daughter said, "Dad, they want to talk to you because aren't you the boss?" I said, "No, no, I am not the boss." Don't do that again. And I forwarded this call to my boss. And then throughout the day, my daughter, she was so proud to sit in my office and to say that I was the boss of the shop when I really am not. And also my daughter, she observed in my office, she said, "Dad, you don't have a picture of me and Dominique." And I said, "Well, why don't you take one?" And she said, "Okay, Dad, when we go to Disneyland, we're going to take a picture for you." I said, "All right, that sounds good. I appreciate that." So Saturday comes the big day that we're going to Disneyland. And as we're driving I live in Brandon, and I'm going up to Orlando, and I asked my kids, I said, "Well, what are we going to do for the day?" And my son says, "Well, Dad, it's going to be a surprise. It's going to be a surprise, Dad. You got to wait till you get there." And I said, "All right. So who brought the tickets for us to go to Disneyland?" And they said, "Dad, you forgot the tickets." How can we vacation with no tickets to Disneyland? And I'm thinking in my mind, okay, it's $650. Now it's going to be about $350 more. And how long we're going to be there, and the food and everything else. So we get to the Disneyland, to the front gate, and of course the ticket person says, how many it's going to be? And I said, 2 kids and 1 adult. And she said, well, how old are your kids? And I said, 16. She said, no, that's 3 adults. And I was like, okay. So how much is for 3 adults? She said, $80 a piece. Because I bought them right there at the gate. So I proceed on and pay for our tickets. Then when we get to inside of the park, my son has our itinerary already made up. And he said, Dad, here's a surprise. We're going to go to the Hawk. And I said, what's the Hawk? He said, Dad, you don't know what the Hawk is? The Hawk is the biggest roller coaster here in the park. I can't wait to get you on the roller coaster, Dad. And guess what? We already talked to the man, and we got a seat for you. It's the front seat. Oh! Oh! And not only did we have the front seat, my daughter had the back seat. And as we're going on the ride, up and down and all around, my son, he says, Dad, wasn't that exciting? And I said, yeah. He said, well, Dad, we're going to go in there for 5 more times, because guess what? This is what we're going to do for the whole day at the park. We're going to ride a roller coaster. After the 5th time on the Hawk, and let me tell you, they allowed me to go to the front each time that he wanted to get on the rock. To bring this to a close, throughout my vacation, I did appreciate my daughter. She left me with a gift. And the gift said, Dad, through the ups and downs and all around, you are the best dad that we ever had. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.